Okay. The truth about talent, when genes matter and when they don't. Many people are familiar with Michael Phelps, who is widely considered to be one of the greatest athletes in history. Phelps has won more Olympic medals not only than any swimmer but also than more than any Olympian in any sport. Fewer people know the name of Hicham El Guerrouj, but he was a fantastic athlete in his own right. El Guerrouj is a Moroccan runner who holds two Olympic gold medals and is one of the greatest middle distance runners of all time. For many years, he held the world record in the mile, 1,500 meter and 2,000 meter races. At the Olympic Games in Athens, Greece in 2004, he won gold in 1,500 meter and 5,000 meter races. These two athletes are wildly different in many ways. For starters, one competed on land, the other in water, but most notably, they differ significantly in height. El Guerrouj is 5 feet 9 inches tall. Phelps is 6 feet and 4 inches tall. Despite the 7-inch difference in height, the two men are identical in one respect. Michael Phelps and Hicham El Guerrouj wear the same length inseam on their pants. How is this possible? Phelps has relatively short legs for his height and very long torso, the perfect build for swimming. El Guerrouj has incredibly long legs and a short upper body, an ideal frame for distance running. Now imagine if these world-class athletes were to switch sports. Given his remarkable athletics, athleticism, would Michael Phelps become an Olympic caliber distance runner with enough training? It's unlikely. At peak fitness, Mike Phelps weighed 194 pounds, which is 40% heavier than El Guerrouj, who competed at an ultra light 138 pounds. Taller runners are heavier runners, and every extra pound is a curse when it comes to distance running. Against elite competition, Phelps would be doomed from the start. Similarly, El Guerrouj might be one of the best runners in history, but it's doubtful he would ever qualify for an Olympics as a swimmer. Since 1976, the average height of Olympic gold medalist in the men's 1,500-meter run is 5 feet 10 inches. In comparison, the average height of Olympic gold medalist in the men's 100-meter freestyle swim is 6 feet 4 inches. Swimmers tend to be tall and have long backs and arms, which are ideal for pulling through the water. El Guerrouj would be at a severe disadvantage before he ever touched the pool. The secret of maximizing your odds of success is to choose the right field of competition. This is just as true with habit change as it is with sports and business. Habits are easier to perform and more satisfying to stick with when they align with your natural inclination and abilities. Like Michael Phelps in the pool or Hicham El Guerrouj on the track. You want to play a game where the odds are in your favor. Embracing this strategy requires the acceptance of the simple truth that people are born with different abilities. Some people don't like to discuss this fact. On the surface, your genes seem to be fixed, and it's no fun to talk about about things you cannot control. Plus, phrases like biological determination makes it sound like certain individuals are destined for success and others are to failure. But this is a short sighted view of the influence of genes on behavior. The strength of genetics is also their weakness. Genes cannot be easily changed, which means they provide a powerful advantage in favorable circumstances and a serious disadvantage in unfavorable circumstances. If you want to dunk a basketball, being 7 feet tall is very useful. If you want to perform a gymnastic routine, being 7 feet tall is a great hindrance. Our environment determines the suitability of our genes and the utility of our natural talents. When our environment changes, so do the qualities that determine the success. This is true not just for physical characteristics, but for mental ones as well. I'm smart if you ask me about habits and human behavior. Not so much when it comes to knitting, rocket propulsion, or guitar chords. Competence is highly dependent on context. I think all of us need to make a note of that. The people at the top of any competitive field are not only well trained, they're also well suited to the task. And this is why, if you want to be great, truly great, selecting the right place to focus is crucial. In short, genes do not determine your destiny, they determine your areas of opportunity. As a physician, Gabor Mate notes, genes are can predispose, but they don't predetermine. The areas where you are genetically predisposed to success are the areas where habits are most likely to be satisfying. The key is to direct your effort towards areas that both excite you and match your natural skills, to align your ambition with your ability. The obvious question is, how do I figure out where the odds are in my favor? How do I identify the opportunities and habits that are right for me? The first place we will look for an answer is by understanding your personality. How your personality influences your habit. Your genes are operating beneath the surface of every habit, indeed, beneath the surface of every behavior. Genes have been shown to influence everything from the number of hours you spend watching television to your likelihood to marry or divorce to your tendency to get addicted to drugs, alcohol, or nicotine. There's a strong genetic component to how obedient or rebellious you are when facing authority, how vulnerable or resistant you are to stressful events, how proactive or reactive you tend to be, and even how captivated or bored you feel during sensory experiences, like attending a concert. As Robert Plomin, a behavioral geneticist at King's College in London, told me, this is it is now at the point where we have stopped testing to see if traits have a genetic component because we literally can't find a single one that isn't influenced by our genes. Wow. Bundled together, your unique cluster of genetic traits predispose you to a particular personality. Your personality is the set of characteristics that is consistent from situation to situation. The most proven scientific analysis of personality traits is known as the Big Five, which breaks them down into five spectrums of behavior. Openness to experience, from curious and inventive to on one end to cautious and consistent on the other. Conscientiousness, organized and efficient to easygoing and spontaneous. Extroversion, outgoing and energetic to solitary and reserved. You likely know them as extrovert versus introverts. Agreeableness, friendly and compassionate to challenging and detached. Neuroticism, anxious and sensitive to confident, calm, and stable. All the five characteristics have biological underpinnings. Extroversion, for instance, can be tracked from birth. If scientists play a loud noise in the nursing ward, some babies turn towards it while others turn away. When the researchers tracked these children through life, they found that the babies who turned towards the noise were far more likely to grow up to be extroverts. Those who turned away were more likely to be introverts, to become introverts. People who are high in agreeableness are kind, considerate, and warm. They also tend to have higher natural oxytocin levels, a hormone that plays an important role in social bonding, increases feelings of trust, and can act as a natural antidepressant. You can easily imagine how someone with more oxytocin would might be inclined to build habits like writing thank you notes or organizing social events. As a third example, consider neuroticism, which is the personality trait of all people possess to various degrees. People who are high in neuroticism, okay, neuro, neurotic, neuroticism, tend to be anxious and worry more than others.
Which page?
221.
Actually, my this one doesn't have a page. How to find a game where the odds, that's the one?
No, wait, let me finish it and then you can come.
No, where is it? I'm just trying to locate it.
The truth about talent, how your personality influences your habits.
Okay. Huh.
Okay, people who are high in neuroticism tend to be anxious and worry more than others. This trait has been linked to hypersensitivity sensitivity of the amygdala, the portion of brain responsible for noticing threats. In other words, people who are more sensitive to negative cues in their environment are more likely to score high in neuroticism. Our habits are not solely determined by our personalities, but there is no doubt that our genes nudge us in a certain direction. Our deeply rooted preferences can make certain behaviors easier for some people than for others. You don't have to apologize for these differences or feel guilty about them, but you do have to work with them. A person who scores lower on conscientiousness, for example, will be less likely to be orderly by nature and may need to rely more heavily on an environment designed to with good habits. As a reminder for the less conscientious readers among us, environment design is a strategy we discussed in chapters 6 and 12. The takeaway is that you should build habits that work for your personality. People can get ripped working out like a bodybuilder, but if you prefer rock climbing or cycling or rowing, then shape your exercise habit around your interests. If your friend follows a low carb diet, but you find that low fat works for you, then more power to you. If you want to read more, you don't be embarrassed if you prefer steamy romance novels over nonfiction. Read whatever fascinates you. You don't have to build the habits everyone tells you to build. Choose the habit that best suits you, not the one that is most popular. There is a version of every habit that can bring you joy and satisfaction. Find it. Habits need to be enjoyable if they're going to stick. This is the core idea behind the fourth law. Tailoring your habits to your personality is a good start, but this is not the end of the story. Let's turn our attention to designing situations where you're at a natural advantage. You go.
How to find a game where the odds are in your favor. Learning to play a game where the odds are in your favor is critical for maintaining motivation and feeling successful. In theory, you can enjoy almost anything. In practice, you are more likely to enjoy the things that come easily to you. People who are talented in a particular area tend to be more competent at that task and are then praised for doing a good job. They stay energized because they are making progress where others have failed, and because they get rewarded with better pay and bigger opportunities, which not only makes them happier but also propels them to produce even higher quality work. It's a virtuous cycle. Pick the right habit and progress is easy. Pick the wrong habit and life is a struggle. How do you pick the right habit? The first step is something we covered in the third law. Make it easy. In many cases, when people pick the wrong habit, it simply means they picked a habit that was too difficult. When a habit is easy, you are more likely to be successful. When you are successful, you are more likely to be satisfied. However, there is another level to consider. In the long run, if you continue to advance and improve, any area can become challenging. At some point, you need to make sure you're playing the right game for your skill set. How do you figure that out? The most common approach is trial and error. Of course, there's a problem with this strategy. Life is short. You don't have time to try every career, date every eligible bachelor, or play every musical instrument. Thankfully, there is an effective way to manage this conundrum, and it is known as the explore exploit trade off. In the beginning of a new activity, there should be a period of exploration. In relationships, it's called dating. In college, it's called the liberal arts. In business, it's called split testing. The goal is to try out many possibilities, research a broad range of ideas, and cast a wide net. After this initial period of exploration, shift your focus to the best solution you've found, but keep experimenting occasionally. The proper balance depends on whether you're winning or losing. If you're currently winning, you exploit, exploit, exploit. If you're currently losing, you continue to explore, explore, explore. In the long run, it is probably most effective to work on the strategy that seems to deliver the best results about 80 to 90% of the time and keep exploring with the remaining 10 to 20%. Google famously asks employees to spend 80% of the work week on their official job and 20% on projects of their choice, which has led to the creation of blockbuster products like AdWords and Gmail. The optimal approach also depends on how much time you have. If you have a lot of time, like someone at the beginning of their career, it makes more sense to explore because once you find the right thing, you still have a good amount of time to exploit it. If you're pressed for time, say, as you come up on the deadline for a project, you should implement the best solution you've found so far and get some results. As you explore different options, there are a series of questions you can ask yourself to continually narrow in on the habits and areas that will be most satisfying to you. What feels like fun to me but work to others? The mark of whether you are made for a task is not whether you love it, but whether you can handle the pain of the task easier than most people. When you are enjoying yourself while other people are complaining, the work that hurts you less than it hurts others is the work you were made to do. What makes me lose track of time? Flow is the mental state you enter when you're so focused on the task at hand and that the rest of the world fades away. This blend of happiness and peak performance is what athletes and performers experience when they are in the zone. It is nearly impossible to experience a flow state and not find the task satisfying, at least to some degree. Where do I get greater returns than the average person? We are continually comparing ourselves than those around us, and a behavior is more likely to be satisfying when the comparison is in our favor. When I started writing at jamesclear.com, my email list grew very quickly. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing well, but I knew that results seemed to be coming faster for me than for some of my colleagues, which motivated me to keep writing. I lost my page.
No, I'll speak.
Huh.
I'll read.
What comes naturally to me? For just a moment, ignore what you have been taught. Ignore what society has told you. Ignore what others expect of you. Look inside yourself and ask, what feels natural to me? When have I felt alive? When have I felt like the real me? No internal judgments or people pleasing. No second guessing or self criticism. Just feelings of engagement and enjoyment. Whenever you feel authentic and genuine, you are headed in the right direction. Continue.
To be honest, some of this process is just luck. Michael Phelps and Hicham El Guerrouj were lucky to be born with a rare set of abilities that are highly valued by society and to be placed in the ideal environment for those abilities. We all have limited time on this planet, and the truly great among us are the ones who not only work hard but also have the good fortune to be exposed to opportunities that favor us. But what if you don't want to leave it up to luck? If you can't find a game where the odds are stacked in your favor, create one. Scott Adams, the cartoonist behind Dilbert, says everyone has at least a few areas in which they could be in the top 25% with some effort. In my case, I can draw better than most people, but I'm hardly an artist. And I'm not any funnier than the average stand up comedian who never makes it big. but I'm funnier than most people. The magic is that few people can draw well and write jokes. It's the combination of the two that makes what I do so rare. When you add in my business background, suddenly I have a topic that few cartoonists could hope to understand without living it. Guys, if you have time, read Dilbert. It's super funny in a very, very, very snarky way and all about business. When you can't win by being better, you can win by being different. By combining your skills, you reduce the level of competition, which makes it easier to stand out. You can shortcut the need for a genetic advantage of years of practice by rewriting the rules. A good player works hard to win the game everyone else is playing. A great player creates a new game that favors their strengths and avoids their weaknesses. In college, I designed my own major, biomechanics, which was a combination of physics, chemistry, biology, and anatomy. I wasn't smart enough to stand out among the top physics or biology majors, so I created my own game. And because it suited me, I was the only taking the courses I was interested in. Studying felt less like a chore. It was also easier to avoid the trap of comparing myself to everyone else. After all, nobody else was taking the same combination of classes. So, who could say if they were better or worse? Specialization is a powerful way to overcome the accident of bad genetics. The more you master a specific skill, the harder it becomes for others to compete with you. Many bodybuilders are stronger than the average arm wrestler, but even a massive bodybuilder may lose at arm wrestling because the arm wrestling champ has very specific strength. Even if you're not the most naturally gifted, you can often win by being the best in a very narrow category. Boiling water will soften a potato but harden an egg. You can't you can't control whether you're a potato or an egg, but you can decide to play a game where it's better to be hard or soft. If you can find a more favorable environment, you can transform the situation from one where the odds are against you to the one where they are in your favor. How to get the most out of your genes? Our genes do not eliminate the need for hard work, they clarify it. They tell us what to work hard on. Once we realize our strengths, we know where to spend our time and energy. We know which types of opportunities to look for and which types of challenges to avoid. The better we understand our nature, the better our strategy can be. Biological differences matter. Even so, it's more productive to focus on whether you are fulfilling your own potential than comparing yourself to someone else. The fact that you have a natural limit to any specific ability has nothing to do with whether you are reaching the ceiling of your capabilities. People get so caught up in the fact that they have limits that they rarely exert the effort required to get close to them. Furthermore, genes can't make you successful if you're not doing the work. Yes, it's possible that the ripped trainer at the gym has better genes, but if you haven't put in the same reps, it's impossible to say if you have been dealt a better or a worse genetic hand. Until you work as hard as those you admire, don't explain away their success as luck. In summary, one of the best ways to ensure your habits remain satisfying over a long run is to pick behaviors that align with your personality and skills. Work hard on things that come easy. Chapter summary. The secret of maximizing your odds of success is to choose the right field of competition. Pick the right habit and progress is easy. Pick the wrong habit and the life is a struggle. Genes cannot be easily changed, which means they provide a powerful advantage in favorable circumstances and a serious disadvantage in unfavorable circumstances. Habits are easier when they align with your natural abilities. Choose the habits that best suit you. Play a game that favors your strengths. If you can't find a game that favors you, create one. Genes do not eliminate the need for hard work, they clarify it and they tell us What to work hard on? You'll go, Meera?
The Goldilocks rule: how to stay motivated in life and work. In 1955, Disneyland had just opened in Anaheim, California, when a 10-year-old boy walked in and asked for a job. Labor laws were loose back then, and the boy managed to land a position selling guidebooks for 50 cents a piece. Within a year, he had transitioned to, it's dollars, I think, $0.50 a piece. Within a year, he had transitioned to Disney's Magic Shop, where he learned tricks from the older employees. He experimented with jokes and tried out simple routines on visitors. Soon he discovered that what he loved was not performing magic, but performing in general. He set his sights on becoming a comedian. Beginning in his teenage years, he started performing in little clubs around Los Angeles. The crowds were small and his act was short. He was rarely on stage for more than 5 minutes. Most of the people in the crowd were too busy drinking or talking with friends to pay attention. One night, he literally delivered his stand up routine to an empty club. It wasn't glamorous work, but there was no doubt he was getting better. His first routines would only last 1 or 2 minutes. By high school, his material had expanded to include a 5 minutes act and a few years later, a 10-minute show. At 19, he was performing weekly for 20 minutes at a time. He had to read 3 poems during the show just to make the routine long enough, but his skills continued to progress. He spent another decade experimenting, adjusting, and practicing. He took a job as a television writer and gradually he was able to land his own appearances on talk shows. By the mid 1970s, he had worked his way into being a regular guest on The Tonight Show and Saturday Night Live. Finally, after nearly 15 years of work, the young man rose to fame. He toured 60 cities in 63 days, then 72 cities in 80 days, then 85 cities in 90 days. He had 18,695 people attend one show in Ohio. Another 45,000 tickets were sold for his 3-day show in New York. He catapulted to the top of his genre and became one of the most successful comedians of his time. His name is Steve Martin. People who know him will enjoy the story, but Martin's story offers a fascinating perspective on what it takes to stick with habits for a long time. Comedy is not for the timid. It is hard to imagine a situation that would strike fear into the hearts of more people than performing alone on stage and failing to get a single laugh. And yet, Steve Martin faced this fear every week for 19 years. In his words, 10 years spent learning, 4 years spent refining, and 4 years as a wild success. Why is it that some people like Martin stick with their habits, whether practicing jokes or drawing cartoons or playing guitar, while most of us struggle to stay motivated? How do we design habits that pull us in rather than pull us in rather than ones that fade away? Scientists have been studying this question for many years. While there is still much to learn, one of the most consistent findings is that the way to maintain motivation achieve peak levels of desire is to work on tasks of just manageable difficulty. The human brain loves a challenge, but only if it is within an optimal zone of difficulty. If you love tennis and try to play a serious match against a 4-year-old, you will quickly become bored. It's too easy. You'll win every point. In contrast, if you play a professional tennis player like Roger Federer or Serena Williams, you will quickly lose motivation because the match is too difficult. Now consider playing tennis against someone who's your equal. As the game progresses, you win a few points and you lose a few. You have a good chance of winning, but only if you really try. Your focus narrows, distractions fade away, and you find yourself fully invested in the task at hand. This is the challenge of just manageable difficulty, and it is a prime example of the Goldilocks rule. The Goldilocks rule states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. The Goldilocks rule. Martin's comedy career is an excellent example of the Goldilocks rule. In practice, each year he expanded his comedy routine, but only by a minute or two. He was always adding new material, but he also kept a few jokes that were guaranteed to get laughs. There were just enough victories to keep him motivated and just enough mistakes to keep him working hard. When you're starting a new habit, it's important to keep the behavior as easy as possible so you can stick with it even when conditions aren't perfect. This is an idea we covered in detail while discussing the third law of behavior change. Once a habit has been established, however, it's important to continue to advance in small ways. These little improvements and new challenges keep you engaged. And if you hit the Goldilocks zone just right, you can achieve a flow state. A flow state is the experience of being in the zone and fully immersed in an activity. Scientists have tried to quantify this feeling. They found that to achieve a state of flow, a task must be roughly 4% beyond your current ability. In real life, it's typically not feasible to quantify the difficulty of an action in this way, but the core idea of the rule remains. Working on challenges of just manageable difficulty, something on the perimeter of your ability, seems crucial for maintaining motivation. Improvement requires a delicate balance. You need to regularly search for challenges that push you to your edge while continuing to make enough progress to stay motivated. Behaviors need to remain novel in order for them to stay attractive and satisfying. Without variety, we get bored, and boredom is perhaps the greatest villain on the quest for self improvement.
How to stay focused when you get bored working on your goals. After my baseball career ended, I was looking for a new sport. I joined a weightlifting team, and one day an elite coach visited our gym. He had worked with thousands of athletes during his long career, including a few Olympians. I introduced myself and we began talking about the process of improvement. What's the difference between the best athletes and everyone else? I asked. What do the really successful people do that most don't? He mentioned the factors that you might expect: genetics, luck, talent. But then he said something I wasn't expecting. At some point, it comes down to who can handle the boredom of training every day, doing the same lifts over and over and over. His answer surprised me because it's a different way of thinking about work ethic. People talk about getting amped up to work on their goals, whether it's business or sports or art. You hear people say things like it all comes down to passion, or you have to really want it. As a result, many of us get depressed when we lose focus or motivation because we think that successful people have some bottomless reserve of passion. But this coach was saying that really successful people feel the same lack of motivation as everyone else. The difference is that they still find a way to show up despite the feelings of boredom. Mastery requires practice, but the more you practice something, the more boring and routine it becomes. Once the beginner gains what has been made and we learn what to expect, our interest starts to fade. Sometimes it happens even faster than that. All you have to do is hit the gym a few days in a row or publish a couple of blog posts on time, and letting one day slip doesn't feel like much. Things are going well. It's easy to rationalize taking a day off because you're in a good place. The greatest threat to success is not failure but boredom. We get bored with habits because they stop delighting us. The outcome becomes expected. And as our habits become ordinary, we start derailing our progress to seek novelty. Perhaps this is why we get caught up in the never ending cycle, jumping from one workout to the next, one diet to the next, one business idea to the next. As soon as we experience the slightest dip in motivation, we begin seeking a new strategy, even if the old one was still working. As Machiavelli noted, men desire novelty to such an extent that those who are doing well wish for a change as much as those who are doing badly. By the way, guys, just read up on Machiavelli. He's supposed to be the most intelligent politician. I mean, in the Western world, we have Chanakya.
No, he's a philosopher and all that also, na?
Yeah, but so his book, I'm trying to remember the name of his book. He wrote a very small book which has got very, very, very deep meaning.
I'll search for it. You continue to read.
Yeah. Perhaps this is why many of the most habit forming products are those that provide continuous forms of novelty. Video games provide visual novelty, porn provides sexual novelty, junk foods provide culinary novelty. Each of these experiences offer continual elements of surprise. In psychology, this is known as a variable reward. Slot machines are the most common real world example. A gambler hits the jackpot every now and then, but not at any predictable interval. The pace of the reward varies. This variance leads to the greatest spike of dopamine, enhances memory recall, and accelerates habit formation. Variable rewards don't create a craving. That is, you can't take a reward people are uninterested in, give it to them at a variable interval, and hope it will change their mind. But there are a powerful way to amplify the cravings we already experience because they reduce boredom. The sweet spot of desire occurs at 50-50 split between success and failure. Half of the time you get what you want, half of the time you don't. You need just enough winning to experience satisfaction and just enough wanting to experience desire. This is one of the benefits of following the Goldilocks rule. If you're already interested in a habit, working on the challenge of just manageable difficulty is a good way to keep things interesting. Of course, not all habits have variable reward component, and you wouldn't want them to. If Google only delivered a useful search result for some of the time, I would switch to a competitor very quickly. If Uber only picked up half of my trips, I doubt I'd be using that service much longer. And if I flossed my teeth each night and only sometimes ended up with a clean mouth, I think I'd skip it. Variable rewards or not, no habit will stay interesting forever. At some point, everyone faces the same challenge on the journey of self improvement. You have to fall in love with boredom. We all have goals that we would like to achieve and dreams that we would like to fulfill. But it doesn't matter what you're trying to become better at. If you only do the work when it's convenient or exciting, then you'll never be consistent enough to achieve remarkable results. I can guarantee that if you manage to start a habit and keep sticking to it, there will be days you'll feel like when you feel like quitting. When you start a business, there will be days when you don't feel like showing up. When you're at the gym, there will be sets you don't feel like finishing. When it's time to write, there will be days you don't feel like typing. But stepping up when it's annoying or painful or draining to do so, that's what makes the difference between a professional and an amateur. Professionals stick to the schedule, amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals know what is important to them and work toward it to with purpose. Amateurs get pulled off course by the urgencies of life. David Kane, an author and meditation teacher, encourages his students to avoid being fair weather meditators. Similarly, you don't want to be a fair weather athlete or a fair weather writer or a fair weather anything. When a habit is truly important to you, you have to become willing to stick to it in any mood. Professionals take action when the mood isn't right, even when the mood isn't right. They might not enjoy it, but they find a way to put the reps in. There have been a lot of sets that I haven't felt like finishing, but I've never regretted doing the workout. There have been a lot of articles I haven't felt like writing, but I've never regretted publishing on schedule. There have been a lot of days I felt like relaxing, but I've never regretted showing up and working on something that was important to me. The only way to become excellent is to be endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over. You have to fall in love with boredom. Chapter summary. The Goldilocks rule says that Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. The greatest threat to success is not failure but boredom. As habits become routine, they become less interesting and less satisfying. We get bored. Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated. It's the ability to keep going when the work isn't exciting that makes the difference. Professionals stick to the schedule, amateurs let life get in the way. Mira, there's only 4 more minutes and one more chapter.
This is actually advanced, no? First, we have to have habits, and then after this is the next level wherein you're finding it difficulty to maintain or you get bored and all that. This is all advanced, isn't it? I missed the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
part.
No, but okay. Because there's something by Lao Tzu I want to read. It's in the, but I think we will
Oh,
not be
this is the last
able to.
chapter.
Yeah. Why don't we ask them to read it by themselves?
What should you read next? Okay. Little lessons from the four laws. How to
Katrina is
apply
also
these
in there.
ideas, how to apply these ideas to parenting. Hmm. We can finish it off, Kanti. That way we finished this book.
No, that there are just too many pages, Mira.
There is no. Okay. Whatever you say.
Okay. So anyway, there's something by Lao Tzu. He's a Chinese thinker, which is at the end of the 20th chapter. I just want to read that. And then I'll leave you guys to say what you have to. Men are born soft and supple, dead.
Where are you reading this from?
The last of the 20th chapter.
Uh-huh.
Men are born soft and supple, dead they're stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and pliant, dead they're brittle and dry. Thus, whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The hard and stiff will be broken, the soft and supple will prevail.
Oh. Nice. Nice way to end it.
Yes. So, guys, who's going to start? Santosh, you missed yesterday. I hope to see you yesterday.
Yeah, sorry. But I think uh, the habit of reading a book at 10 o'clock, maybe it became a habit for me because yesterday I was out with my parents and everyone, and exactly at 9:45 or 9:50, like suddenly it came to mind that I have a reading session. I have to attend. uh, this one thing, and I like how the other described that. So in order to continue a habit, instead of hyping up the habit, we need to know how to handle the boredom. uh, I know because I think I have experienced this in this reading session. So from the first day onwards, if I was only remain silent for the whole 1 hour, I think I may get bored into what we did. But instead of that, I was like focusing on what should. So it's like in my school days. Whenever teacher reads a textbook and she may ask, "What did you get from the reading?" I was like, so in the first 45 minutes, I was completely focused on each and every line of the textbook, and I was trying to summarize what I learned today. So it make me not out of boredomness. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Santosh.
And I
Truly,
don't know if he realized, he's speaking so well.
yes, he is. He is, and he is putting across his points so clearly.
Yeah, he's coherent and there's no hesitation. Very good, Santosh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Dharani,
Good evening, ma'am.
good evening.
The first thing is like creating a right habit, picking up the right habit, which is little bit easy at the starting stage, and making more attractive for that habit. Consistency practicing that habit will be more benefit. And that's next thing is whenever like the main threat for the failure is like a boredom. you have to fall in love with the boredom. And the next thing, this I like this Goldilocks rule, ma'am. Like practicing the things with not with the juniors, like 4 years
Dharani,
old.
Dharani, do you know the story of Goldilocks?
Like no, ma'am, but I read this line, ma'am. Like playing with the 4 years child, it will be getting bored, and playing with a professional, it is making like demotivating us. Playing
So
with a
just tell you the story in like
person.
short 4 sentences. So Goldilocks was a girl who got lost in the forest and she was very hungry and she stumbles upon the house of three bears. And the three bears, Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and the baby bear, they have food. I mean, they have everything according to their size. From the
Plates, spoons.
utensils, from the plates, spoons, the food, amount of food in the bowl, to the beds they sleep in. So she found that the Papa Bears is very big, the Mama Bears is slightly big, the baby bears is just right in everything. And she actually, when the bears come home, they find her sleeping in the baby bear's bed because it was just right.
Yes, now
So
I
everything
understand.
was just right for her. That's what the traits.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So Chandrasekhar.
Now, Dharni, do you have anything more you'd like to say?
No, ma'am.
Chandrasekhar. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Here, I like this one. Yeah, which 18th chapter, ma'am. Here, the specialization is a powerful way to overcome the accident of a bad genetics. The more you master a specific skill, the harder it becomes for others to compete with you. I remember the famous karate master. He practiced only one skill at 1,000 times, ma'am. Practice only one skill. Rather than you practice all skill, you practice only one skill. Then that skill, no one can compete that person. I remember the karate master that in this sentence, ma'am. I like this sentence also. And here, what comes natural to me. This one also, ma'am. Yeah, what feels natural to me when I have felt alive, when I have felt like the real me. No internal judgments or people pleasing, no second guessing or self criticizing, just feelings of engagement and enjoyment. Whenever you feel authentic and genuine, you are headed in the right direction. Yes, ma'am, I like this one also in this
Very
chapter.
good, Chandrasekhar. And you know what? It's been a joy reading to all of you. Whoever's been coming, I enjoyed the whole part of being reading aloud, and I enjoyed the book very, very, very much. And this book has been at home for the past 7 years since it's been printed.
And
And
but you hadn't read it.
no, I hadn't read it. It was thanks to the fact that we chose this for a read aloud reading challenge, and it's 6 years old, and I read it only now. And thanks to all of you, I read it, and thanks to the English Lion reading challenge that I read it. And I hope each of you will keep reading and expanding your knowledge base, expanding your interests, expanding your vocabulary, expanding your understanding of the language. And Mira, what did Machiavelli write? He wrote a very thin book.
The prince and something. He was a politician, diplomat, and what he says, the end justifies the means.
Everybody think that what he wrote is what is the most worst politician he does, but anyway, they say
So
his
the
book
end
is very deep.
justifies the means whatever the result. If you get that, is the result is important. How you get it is not the important thing. That's what it means. And end
But that
justifies the
goes
means.
against almost every ethical feeling. So anyways, it's been a wonderful, wonderful audience. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as Meera.
Absolutely. And many more things to do. First is, like Santosh said, I loved what he said, that 10 o'clock has become his reading time. That is what we want. Wherein, see, this journey, in this reading journey, how much of this book you learned or understood, that's okay. Doesn't matter. You can revisit this book. It's about habit formation of reading. That is our focus, wherein you start enjoying reading and you pick up a book and you start reading it by yourself. You don't wait for us. And the book, wherever you see a book, it invites you. You want to pick that up and you read. That is what we want to want that to happen. And you have started this journey. Keep doing it. And the next one is, from this book, we've so much of information and knowledge we've got. We have to start implementing that. So pick up one habit that you want to work on and keep giving us updates how you're. And if you ask me, I want you to focus on any of the communication skills, language skills, which is LSRW. So it can be reading, speaking, reading, writing. L is listening, S is speaking, R is reading, and W is writing. Any of these skills, if you pick up, that would be wonderful. But if you want to do something else, that's also okay. But keep telling us, keep guiding us, because we want to learn from you. Come on, because we have not been studying since a long time. All we do is teach. We want to learn from you people how we can adopt it. See, for me, I also have a list. I want to meditate regularly. I want to read more. There's so many things. So I want to pick up one habit and implement all these whatever theory that we have learned.
And another thing is, the next challenge is the GD challenge. Please don't think GD challenge is only for job. It is something that will help you think on your feet, help you respond on your feet. That is the most important part of a GD, just
Yes.
not for your job. It helps you think clearly, quickly, and present your case effectively.